Logbook, week 42. You're going to have to look. And you want to. You know you do. Shine a light into the dark corners. Gaze into your self-made abyss. See what stares back. Don't be scared. That's right. That's it. Just open your eyes. What do you see? Good question. This is 52 Pickup. Hello! Welcome to 52 Pickup, a podcast about the greatest comic you've never heard of. My name is Gita, and that's who I am. I'm Gita. Always been Gita, always gonna be Gita. And I'm joined, as ever, by professional comic books expert Alex Jaffe. How are you, Alex?
I'm terrific. I haven't always been a comics books expert, but I am now, and that's never going to not be the case again. It's
That's true.
One-way direction through time. So it doesn't extend all the way into the past, but it does into the future, which makes my identity about half as viable as yours, but no less important to me.
Half as viable. I mean, You were always destined to be a comics books expert. You had the bug.
That's true.
The bug being autism spectrum disorder.
The literal bug that made my dad obsessed with Talmudic commentary got transferred to me.
He got that Talmud autism.
Oh, yeah.
That's
he's got
crazy kind of autism.
He's got that Tanaitic pre-Babylonian Judaism autism.
Oh, boy. How much of the Talmud can be explained by autism spectrum disorder?
Most of it, I guess.
Forum thread ever devised.
A lot of autism, little dash of sexism, and brother, you got a stew going.
That's most major religions. Yes. God. It was Shavuot recently, and I enjoy the holiday where you get to eat cheese. That's what I like. My husband, though, did go to a learning session. He loves those. My husband, who also is on the spectrum, went to a Talmudic learning session.
Did your husband count Omer?
No, he did not.
Counting Omer is a thing that a lot of Orthodox Jews do between Passover and Shavuot, which is the holiday that takes place 49 days after Passover. And you're supposed to count every single night. And if you miss a night, you're out. And this was the first year in my life that I made it every single night to 49.
I'm so proud of you because I never would have been able to do that. I'm not lying.
It took me 30 tries, Gita.
Yeah, no, Dave really is just in it for any event where he gets to go somewhere and learn something. He was describing it to me and he was like, and look at all these different panels you could go to. And it's like, I was looking at the program he got and I was like, this is just Comic-Con, but for the Torah.
Oh, yeah. My dad used to teach the 4 a.m. slot at our synagogue when he was younger. He would be the last one before the dawn.
It's like getting when you're a freshman trying to get a slot at the radio station in college.
Oh,
it's like, you got 4 a.m. Yep.
That was me. I hosted a very rudimentary version of this very program at a college radio show that was so embarrassing I won't even speak the name of it aloud.
Wow. Jaffe lore.
We had 2 listeners and one of them was my mom.
Oh, that's very nice of her. That's very, very sweet of her.
Yeah. She doesn't listen to this show, but she listened to that one.
Listen, it took me a minute to confirm that my parents were subscribed to Aftermath. I was like, can you just do it? They're like, what's this all about? It's like the business I'm running. Can you please subscribe? Yeah, they don't know anything about my interests, basically at all. They thought they'd have a normal daughter, but they didn't. They don't even have a daughter. So
what do your parents think about comic books?
They don't give a shit. It's just, doesn't even faze them. They're like, oh, okay. They don't care.
What about, newspaper comics or comic strips?
Don't care. Don't care. Don't care. Video games, don't care. Couldn't possibly care. My dad talks to me about Hassan Piker, and my mom complains to me about academia. And that's the conversations that we have.
My mom still sends me newspaper comics once in a while. I got my very first comic book from my dad, who got his comics from his dad's pharmacy that he ran in New Jersey.
Man, they should. I mean, I got the bug, autism spectrum disorder from my parents also, but I got the comic book specific bug because they used to have comic books at my grocery store. And so when I was bored waiting for my mom to finish the checkout line, I would read comic books in the magazine aisle. And it boggles the mind that they don't still just do this. But I guess also there's no magazine aisle in the grocery store anymore for various reasons. But I remember specifically picking up the DC 1 million issue of Young Heroes in Love and just not knowing what the hell it was. But seeing all those little kids hiding under the table of the big superheroes and just thinking, that's me. I'm one of those. That's nice. And wanting to read comics after that.
Young Heroes in Love is such a weird book. It actually isn't on the DC Universe Infinite app anymore. It got removed like last year, I think, because the rights reverted back to the creators.
I mean, sick for them, but also what?
Right. It happens every once in a while that there's some sort of clause with most, I'm not going to say most, but with a lot of creators that if DC doesn't use your character for a while, you get to take it back. And just very rarely something will fall out of the archive because the creator's like, you know what? You haven't been reprinting this and I got something else I want to do with it.
Well, I mean, good for them. I'm happy that clause worked out for once. Yeah. And that it's like babies pretending they're superheroes. It's like the Muppet Babies, but for comics. I'm sorry. It's just really a weird concept. And I understand why they did it because the Muppet Babies was on the air at that time, right? Like some exec was like, yeah, I'll greenlight this. I've seen the Muppet Babies. That's really popular. Yeah. But it doesn't really work because they're just babies. And like, who is the demographic for that? Me. Literally me, a child with no income, no power to buy a comic, just waiting for her mom to be done doing grocery shopping.
Well, I think my favorite instant of a book falling out of the DC archive is Alan Grant, who did a lot of the Lobo comics in the 90s. He did this spin-off called Bob the Galactic Bum, which was about this space hobo. It was a 4-issue miniseries, pretty obscure. He decided after a while that he wanted to reprint it elsewhere. The only problem is Lobo, who is a DC character, is in it. So when he reran it, he had Lobo redrawn as this super huge butch space lesbian and just changed the name, and it just worked even better.
Wait, that kind of fucking rules. Wait, I need a Lobo comic where there is Lobo, but he's trans now, and now he's a butch lesbian. Like, well, I want so bad.
I got good news for you. Lobo's daughter Crush is a huge part of the comics now, and she's this butch space lesbian who hangs out with the Teen Titans and Noogie's Damian Wayne, and she's the best.
Oh, wait. Oh, my God. Wait. No, that is the best. Oh, my God. Fuck. That fucking rules.
That's Crush for you.
So we are doing a long preamble because we both talked about this issue beforehand, and it's pretty cut and dried. It's a big reveal issue, which I remember when this issue hit the stands, I was losing my mind because there's an intense reveal in here that I literally will never forget reading it and seeing it for the first time. And that part is so fucking cool. But because it's a big reveal, there's no mysteries to talk about, really. And that means that there's a little bit less for us to talk about, but it's nice to just talk about our history with comics. I also wanted to give you a brief interlude because you told me months ago to read this, and I finally did. I finally read Absolute Wonder Woman, and it is as good as you say.
Oh my God, it's the best book.
Good. It's so good. It is so much better than it has any right to be. I really, really love it. And I think when we were talking to Greg Rucka, he talked about how the first thing everyone does when they want to do a new version of Wonder Woman is take away the island. What I like about this, they did take her out of that context, but the island still exists. Yeah. She just has to find her source of power from somewhere else. And I love that it goes just doubling down into how fucked up Greek mythology is. I love all of that stuff a lot.
Yeah, it gets really into kind of the themes that even Marston was kind of poking at back in the 40s of like talking about specifically the women in the Greek pantheon and how they've always played this supporting role to these male characters because that's who was writing the mythology.
Yes. And then Circe specifically has already been radically reimagined, like in the book Circe, but in also various translations and like filmic adaptations of the Odyssey, where in the Odyssey. So, okay. This is a little bit of Gita lore. I was obsessed with the TV show Wishbone when I was a child because it was a cute dog and books, and the dog wore little outfits. I loved that dog. And I watched the Odyssey episode like 100 million times. And then that led to a lifelong obsession with Greek mythology, non-binary, bisexual, obsessed with Greek mythology. I'm not beating the allegations. And that episode, I remember from there reading, like getting really, really interested in the part of the Odyssey where he is lured by Circe onto her island. And she is depicted in so many, and her reasons for giving him up and the way that she is depicted changes radically from interpretation to interpretation. But there is just this general idea when you look at the mythology of her being that incredibly sexist stereotype of like a femme fatale, like one of the earliest ones who's trying to get one over on a man because of her own nefarious goals. And I think it's really cool to see Circe in this comic being paired up with another woman. And also it is a mentor-mentee relationship, but kind of not a mother-daughter one. I like that distinction also, where it is like a witch and apprentice, and there is not always honesty and trust in that relationship than the way that you would have in a mother-daughter relationship. I like the thing about the absolute line. I'm like kind of fucking with it. I kind of like it a lot. I thought I would hate it. The Batman one is the weakest one, but the Superman one really took me by surprise.
Superman lost me a little bit, but got me back recently. I think Batman's pretty cool. Flash is kind of Jeff Lemire just doing Sweet Tooth again, but like, nothing wrong with that.
I'm not mad about that, right? This is sort of reminds me, I watched the movie Mountain Home over the weekend with my husband, and I'd read bad reviews of it that were like, it's just a rehash of Succession. And I was like, yum, yum, I love Succession.
Green Lantern, I don't think has found its footing yet. I think it feels like it's Al Ewing trying to do Stephen King. Which you might
I feel the same way about the Green Lantern one, but I think that's mostly because the pitch on a lot of the others are so succinct, right? Yeah. The pitch on The Flash is the heroes are the rogues gallery.
Yeah, exactly.
And like that's just a smart way to do it because Flash's villains are like not very like they're very silly. So having them appear as the caped, heroes and the Flash as someone they're hunting down, it lends itself to the hero's power set, which is running fast. And also it's just like, okay, I like that take. And it's easy to explain. Batman, he doesn't have his riches. Okay, that's easy to explain. Wonder Woman, she doesn't have the island. Her source of power comes from somewhere else. Easy to explain. Green Lantern has a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
I'm waiting to see at the end of the 7-issue arc. It seems like most of the arcs are about 7 issues here.
6-7 issues, yeah.
6-7 issues. And I'm waiting to see at the end of the arc if it settles. I do like the characters she has chosen for the roster here, and especially I love seeing Joe again, but I can think of other ways that I would radically reinterpret the source material that make more sense and are easier to get. I just don't know what they're doing yet, right? Like, I just don't know what they're doing yet.
There is one book we haven't talked about yet, and it's just so fucking sick. And it's Absolute Martian Manhunter.
Fuck. No, if that you're not reading a single one of these, pick that one up. That's like comics for real adults. Like it's really, really good, really psychedelic. I love it. I kind of forgot it was part of the Absolute line because it's so it is like a level of quality even above Wonder Woman, I think.
It feels too good to be like Warner Brothers IP. It feels like we're reading a Fantagraphics book.
It does feel like a Fantagraphics book. It feels like
something Emil Ferris would read.
Yes, like it is. That is a comic book that I would give to a non-comic reading friend.
Yes.
Like I have nerdy friends that I could probably get down with Absolute Wonder Woman, right?
Mhm.
But if you've never read a comic before, I don't know why you're listening to this if you haven't. But if you've
They
never
just
read a
really
comic
like
before,
you, Gita.
yeah, oh, that's nice. But if you've never read a comic before, that is one to start with if you want to know how cool a comic can be.
Totally. I 100% agree with that.
It is so good it feels indie. Like, it's so good it doesn't feel like IP. And that part of that is because people don't use Martian Manhunter very well in the normal universe. But it's also it just feels like a blank slate. Like, it feels like it's just so fucking cool. And plus, he's so cute.
Yeah.
The redesign of Martian Manhunter. He looks like
face.
Gumby, and he's got a little cute face.
Yeah, Javier Rodriguez literally molded him out of clay when he was designing him. And you can find those clay sculptures
That's
online.
absolutely perfect. Oh my God. Yeah, Martian Manhunter I forgot about because it's like, I can't even conceive of it as being something that DC would greenlight. You know?
Yeah, it feels like it's coming like right out of Shade the Changing Man-ass era Vertigo.
Yes, that's where they were really not afraid of alienating readers.
Yeah.
Like, they just didn't give a fuck.
Where all of the editors were taking peyote.
Yeah, exactly. And it is, to me, in that same line of like whenever DC does a swing for the fences on weird, like, and it really pulls off, you could do anything in this book and I'd be happy to read it. Like,
absolutely.
It's so far the match of the two talents together, writing and illustrating, are just perfect.
Yeah.
And the way the story is told and the story they're telling, it has themes, you know? Mm-hmm. It's not just about what if Batman except. It is a story about identity. And that is something that is, oh my God, I'm really enjoying it a lot. I really, really, really like it. The Absolute line really took me by surprise. I thought it was going to suck shit because the Batman design looked so fucking stupid.
I wrote an article reviewing this that I put my thoughts into for DC.com that I'll put in the show notes that I'm pretty proud of, which spells out like how impossible this thing is and how they did it anyway.
Yeah.
So you can read more about it there, but we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about 52 number 42.
52 number 42, one where I logged on to Scans Daily immediately after reading it. I was like, I have to talk about this issue. But when we'll go through it, you'll see why we say it's mysteries revealed, not deeper mysteries like laid out for us.
Like just like issue 40 was a resolution of the Steel story. This is, with one exception, a beat we'll see later, the resolution of the Elongated Man story. We're in the home stretch here and we're clearing the decks of the subplots. Exactly.
And this is a really satisfying ending, I'll say. If you're reading along with us, I hope you also hooted and hollered at home.
Yeah. This is a wild one. If you listen to our Mark Waid bonus episode, you know there was a lot of fighting behind the scenes about how this one would play out. And for better or worse, this is what we got. This harkens all the way back to issue number 1 with Elongated Man sticking a gun in his mouth when he finds out something's up with his wife's grave. And just all the weird places we've been going with the helmet of fate.
It's a very literal usage of Chekhov's gun, right?
Yes.
If a gun appears in the first act, you better reappear in the third. And it does.
And Selmo's gun.
Yeah.
Before that, we get one scene of Renee Montoya after her big fight with Richard Dragon and her revelation with Wonder Woman that we covered last time, just heading back into that cave and seeing her face, or is it, reflected back at her.
Yeah. First, we should talk about the cover briefly.
Oh, yes. Hold on. Yeah.
You wanted to talk talent.
I am so dazzled by Absolute Martian Manhunter that I forgot to talk talent.
Wow. Right. Yes, let's talk talent.
Let's talk
it's
talent.
Okay.
Sorry. We've got the great Derek Robertson on pencils and inks. Robertson, one of the best in the game. He did Transmetropolitan. He did The Boys. He does a lot of blue wave liberal memes on Blue Sky now, which, he's an old man. He can do it.
They're allowed to. We should allow boomers to just act like boomers, right?
Exactly.
It's better than not. One thing I'll say about Derek Robertson, sometimes I don't like how sketchy his pencils are, but the expressions in this issue are really incredible.
Yeah.
Like,
Absolutely.
we needed him for this issue because there's a lot of talking and he makes talking feel very dynamic.
That's a very good point. For a Talking Heads issue, Robertson's one of the best you can get because Transmetropolitan is really just a Talking Head-ass book, and he makes it feel alive.
I mean, The Boys is too, even though it's not very good, it is like a talky book. Like, it is all about, it's all Garth Ennis talking about how much he fucking hates superheroes.
Oh, man. Yeah, I can't believe I skipped this cover because this cover is metal as fuck.
It's so metal. Nothing to do with what's on the inside of the issue, but it's cool as hell.
This brings me to some, like, I've been hanging out with some of the other community moderators at the DC Discord. And one of them recently asked me, like, Dr. Fate is so cool looking. Where can I read more about Dr. Fate? And I'm like, I got bad news for you. Every Dr. Fate comic kinda sucks.
It's true. I feel like the only magic character that has consistently good books is Zatanna.
I don't know if I'd even agree with that. I think Zatanna looks great. I'm not always super into the writing.
That's fair. I mean, what I mean by consistently good books is like there will be a solid run of something with Zatanna, and you're like, that fucks.
Oh, she's great in a team setting. Absolutely.
Yeah. I feel like when magic and the way magic works in the DC universe is so ill-defined that trying to write a book just about Zatanna, you're like, is her social life like? We don't know. Like, what does she do as a magic practitioner? We don't know. So every writer has to reinvent the wheel. The one I really loved, of course, was the Zatanna Seven Soldiers book, which made an effort to sort of, Grant is the one person you'd want to see writing that stuff because they clearly know about magic practice in real life. But that set her up for, I think, a really fun series of allies and villains, and then nobody picked up that ball and ran with it.
That's true. Fair enough.
Yeah, but I do agree that, like, even a Zatanna book, you'll get maybe like 3 issues in, and then the 4th issue, it's like, we don't know what to do now.
Yeah, it like a lot of people really love the Paul Dini run, but it very quickly becomes the author's barely disguised fetish.
Yeah.
And it runs pretty hard in that all the way through.
Yep. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
The biggest run of Dr. Fate was a J.M. DeMatteis run in the late 80s to early 90s, which was about mother and son sharing the role, Linda and Eric Strauss. Except the son was aged up from a child to an adult, and there's this very overt sexual tension between them the entire time. And like they're like, we love each other, but we can't be together because you're my mother. And that is somehow the longest running Dr. Fate series.
That's so weird. Why did they do that? Sorry. My reaction to that is just, why was it like that? Like,
I don't know.
Who made that choice?
The 2015, I'll just say, before someone gets at me in the comments, the 2015 run with Khalid Nassour is pretty cool, where he's like this Egyptian med student who gets the helmet.
Oh, that's a good idea. But again, you can see how quickly that's going to lead to, like, they have to reinvent everything about that character. And when you're starting from basically zero, because there's nothing to reference to in the past, it just can get really difficult for the writer and the creative team to keep up momentum. You know, like here's the thing, right? With Batman, they'll use one of the most popular characters as an example. With Batman, you can go back to the archives and find gold in there, like anywhere, basically anywhere. And even if you don't find gold, you'll find a character or a series of characters that's incredibly fucking popular. Like, for example, Hush. For some reason, they're doing a Hush too. That character... Why did that one get me?
That's canonically what it is.
Oh my God. It's so like, but that's what I mean. Like there will be, you can find themes to draw upon. You'll find character arcs you could want to reference or continue. There's something in there. And for a lot, like the magic of DC is that for almost every character, there's something like that you can go to. You can go back to the archives. You can find something to bring into the future, reinterpret, a la Absolute Martian Manhunter. But for a lot of the magic characters, Dr. Fate in particular, that just doesn't exist. Like, it's just nothing there.
Dr. Fate is all looks, no runs. But this cover, I cannot explain. It just, he's dealing with some cool fourth dimensional Lovecraftian squid thing that does not appear here or anywhere in this series. And I tried to look into it, and apparently at the time, J.G. Jones was like, yeah, I didn't know what was going to happen in this issue, so I just drew this really cool Dr. Fate cover, and they ended up going with that. Which kind of shows how they were wrestling with what would happen in this issue up to the very last minute.
Yeah. We did get some inside info about some of the changes made near the end of the issue, which is a fun story, and I'm excited to share. But
we'll get there when we get there.
We'll get there when we get there. Yes, in the first 2 pages, there's just sort of a cap put on the end, a continuity from the previous week, where it is Renee in that cave experiencing Plato's allegory of the cave, essentially. But just with her own identity. And then from then on, the rest of the issue is Ralph Dibny. So let's get into it.
I do love that that last panel on the first page where we see Renee illuminated by the light, just like her eyes closed, clearly terrified. It's just a very nuanced expression that you need a Derek Robertson to get through.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Here we go to the Tower of Fate. He's Dr. Fate's been collecting wheelchairs and chains from sea beasts and MacGuffins and Gewgaws from all over the DC universe, all leading up to this, the Tower of Fate in Salem, Massachusetts, as the helmet tells him now is the time to enact the ritual. Do it, motherfucker. Do it.
Sorry, that's a very funny way to put it. Yeah, it is so straightforward that let's try to just get into it. I really like the way that this magic ritual is illustrated, I'll say. I love all the floating like masks heads, and then it's pictures of Sue, and she's bursting out of them 3D with her arms open to embrace him. I think that's really powerful. And I like also that despite what's about to happen, magic is real. I just like that.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Ralph is clearly conflicted about what's about to happen, and the mask is tipping its non-existent hands a little bit more and more, getting very insistent that you got to do it now, otherwise whatever 10th age of magic bullshit he's been egging him on to help correct is not going to happen, and you're not going to see your wife again, and everything's going to be fucked. It's all very vague.
Yeah, the mask is talking a lot more than it ever has, really.
Yes.
It is interrupting Ralph and just being like, do it. And it's peer pressuring. It's a lot of peer pressure here.
Which is very weird for this enigmatic mask who's not been very helpful up until now.
Yeah.
Ralph takes one last swig from his flask and dons the mask, putting it on his head. All the floating heads swirl around him. Some kind of ritual's about to happen. And then he pulls that gun out of his belt with the Anselmo tag off the trigger and blasts it off his face.
It's such a cool drawing. I love it. His head is not impacted, but the mask itself looks like a flimsy piece of cloth. It is very cool looking. He knocks off his head, and then a spirit comes out of it, and the mask itself turns into his wedding ring.
Yeah. And this spirit falls out of the cloth mask, and it's our old Halloween buddy, Felix Faust. And Felix is shocked at this turn of events and asks, "How did you know it was me?" And Ralph says, "Because, Faust, I'm a detective."
Yeah,
title drop.
Title drop, trigger effect. This is where the Saw music would start playing if you were playing along at home. Esper, play as much of that in the background as you can without getting us in legal trouble. That would be really great. Because it is just like the rest of the issue is just like a Saw trap explanation scene, right?
I was thinking of like Monk or Columbo. It's like, okay,
Monk
here's
or
what
Columbo.
happened.
Sorry, for me, the reference point is Saw because I love horror movies. I've been watching the Final Destination movies in order. I'm having a time.
Yeah.
This is just like victory lap for Ralph for the rest of the issue, but it is really satisfying, right? Because it is not fun watching Ralph be in so much emotional pain. He has been through it. He has been through the ringer, and he gets to be victorious, right? He gets to have one last mystery-solving moment, and Ralph Dibny fans everywhere get to celebrate that. I think this was something, didn't DiDio before this started say, like, I need Ralph to have a win, Like, please, you have to have Ralph have a win.
Mm-hmm.
And they give him one of the biggest, most triumphant wins in the whole series.
Totally. He's talking about how he was able to put this all together way back in issue 13 when they did that ritual at Devem's with the blood kryptonite and the wicker Sue that reached out to him. The wicker doll, there was no Kryptonian resurrection. It was you working your magic from behind the scenes, trying to give me just enough hope to hang myself. You had to have been on the scene to have stumbled across my wedding ring, something you could use as a totem for your spiritual possession. God, you and your thing for fingers, you idiot. This is a fun callback to Felix Faust's first appearance in Justice League of America number 10 back in the 60s, where he literally transforms the Justice League into his fingers.
Sorry, just Felix Faust's first appearance. Felix Faust's first appearance.
Felix Faust's first appearance. Felix Faust.
God, that is a very funny callback. Again, the Derek Robinson art is so good here. Lots of really terrifying expressions. It really lends itself well to the horror atmosphere of the flashbacks of the little wicker doll reaching out to him. I just love it. I think it's good. But the explanation does not end there. They go on to describe the locked room mystery problem, where Ralph Dibny really figures out exactly what was going on, but played his cards close to the chest. Yeah,
the Tim Trench death, the Croatoan Society, where Detective Chimp brings him back into the fold.
Yeah, but what he realized was that the mask showed a vision of Tim Trench's death, meaning that he was remembering himself.
Right.
Yeah. How can you see from third person yourself, doing this murder? And that's when Ralph was like, locked room murder mystery, but this is the murder weapon. So there has got to be a greater explanation of what went on here other than Tim Trench just wasn't ready. And also, of course, the mask itself was shiny, spotless, and clean, as if it'd been wiped down. What's the first thing Ralph says you do when you search a crime scene? You look for prints.
You look for prints. And as he's breaking this down, Felix tries to escape, and we get the big reveal. Ralph was never an alcoholic. He's been drinking Jingle this whole time.
This is the one that made the internet go fucking crazy.
Oh, this rules.
That was the one. This panel also, we needed Derek Robinson for this one also, because the way that the fist goes over the border between the panels, the gutter, thank you for the technical term, the dynamism, also the expression on Faust's face when he's getting socked in the mouth, it's just so fun and cartoony.
Oh, it's wonderful. Derek Robertson did a book recently for DC called Hellblazer: Rise and Fall with Tom Taylor. That's just this really neat story about an angel who lifts billionaires into the air and then drops them.
Sick. Wait, that sounds great. I'd like to read that.
He fucks the devil in it. It's a great book.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah. So the man still got it.
Yeah.
And perfect for this book. Ralph's continuing to break it down. And Felix Faust reveals, as he's cornered, that all of this was a ploy to exchange the soul of a hero for his soul, because the story that he told Ralph back in the Halloween issue was true, that he was kept trading his soul back and forth until it was worthless, and this has all been a way for him to get out. I don't know why Felix Faust would have told him that back in the Halloween story, but I maybe it's like villains having to tell their plan out to the hero. Maybe he thought he was safe because he was Dr. Fate. But we find out what the deal with that gun that Ralph kept sticking in his mouth was. What the Anselmo gun was, which the internet was trying to tear itself apart for this whole time.
I like this explanation a lot. Mm-hmm. It was from a case where it was a wishing gun.
Mm-hmm.
And it is one of those things where I will forgive the murder mystery thing of you should have like all the clues for the audience to discover inside there. Because if you really do think about it, and as he explains, there's too many fucking coincidences here. So there has to be something else going on, right? The gun itself, you put a bullet in it and fire it, and it grants your wish. What happened when he put the gun in his mouth? He wishes he was with his wife. And then he immediately gets a call leading him on this further mystery.
Right. He fired the gun. And this is what happened.
Yeah. How can he be with his wife? Well, we're about to see what exactly that means. But it's like instead of just killing himself, he went on a transformative journey where he got to be the man he was with his wife, which is really beautiful.
And he gets this Rorschach-ass scene where he tells Felix Faust, I was never caught in your trap. You were caught in mine. And all of this has been a ploy to get Faust's boss, Neron, on the scene. Neron is a character who has not really shown up in the series until now. He's kind of one of the devils who runs around DC. The deal with Neron is that he's originally from Mark Waid's Underworld Unleashed story from 1995, kind of the first big DC story arc that Mark Waid did. And it was just about all these villains selling their souls to this devil figure to get superpowers. And Neron's deal is that he's rather than being like a fallen angel, he's the living embodiment of hell itself, and kind of a Trumpian soul trade guy.
I see. I mean, it's funny. He does look pretty Trumpy in this illustration. He's just a big guy in a suit with the stupid looking blonde hair.
80s business guy.
80s business guy, which I think we all should admit now is Trumpian. Like that is the Trumpian archetype. So he is not satisfied with the deal. Art of the deal. He doesn't like this one. He's like, I'm not taking Faust's stinky, stupid soul. I was promised the soul of a hero. And he still is determined to take Ralph Dibny's soul. But Ralph has what he said when the Gin Gold scene happened. That not even my final surprise. So he's got one last thing up his sleeve.
And that is he's put this whole deal together, except he has sort of goads Neron into killing him with his own wedding ring. Except because the deal was never completed, both Neron and Faust are trapped in this Tower of Fate. So in his last act before sacrificing himself to be with his wife again, he literally got one over on the devil himself.
He gets to be with his wife again.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a further thing that happens later on in 52 that makes people pretty frustrated because it's another moment where it's like, why didn't anyone pick up this ball and run with it? Like, it was a good idea. It was a good setup. But if this is like the final moment of Ralph Dibny's character, this is a beautiful send-off and in many ways makes up for the intense betrayal that a lot of people felt after Identity Crisis.
Yeah.
Like, Identity Crisis is more like character assassination.
I think it was an identity crisis in that it was DC asking itself, what are we? And
yeah, and it hopefully not that.
Yeah.
That's my answer.
It sure was an identity crisis.
You know, if this is a better way, I think, to say we need to close the door as a company on some of the ways that we've told stories in the Silver Age and some of the characters we told stories with. We are no longer in the business of silliness. It just doesn't sell anymore.
Yeah.
The style of levity is no longer within our company brand. This is a loving send-off. Identity Crisis felt like repeatedly getting punched in the face if you liked that stuff.
Yeah, pretty awful.
Yeah.
We get one last page of Fire, who's been kind of an ancillary character in Ralph and Booster's stories, leaving Sue's wedding ring on her gravestone and just kind of saying goodbye to him because she keeps calling him and he's not picking up, and she knows what that means. Ralph is gone. Beautiful.
It's just beautiful. It's just really good. This, you can see why people still herald 52 is like an incredible series that actually pays off on the things it sets up. Because it's gin gold, not booze, is just still one of my favorite moments in comics.
Someone asked me a couple weeks ago if they need to read all of 52 or if they can just skip to kind of a good or if there's a better starting point later on, because 52 issues is kind of a lot. And I told them, I promise you, it's going to fly by. This was a weekly series. They didn't get to overwrite it.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to finish it much faster than you think it will. And it's all going to accumulate to payoffs like this.
It's very rare in any long-running comic where I'm like, all of the payoffs are worth it. And it's not like every single storyline is perfect, but in this comic, basically every payoff is worth it.
We got one last thing. We got the backup. We have an origin for Green Arrow. My name is Oliver Queen after 5 years in hell, etc., etc. Were you ever an Arrow watcher, Gita?
You know I love that slop.
Yeah.
You know I'm a CW fan. Like, you can't pry my ass away from it. Is it good? No. But do I watch it? Abso-fucking-lutely. I didn't watch it for long, I would say. But I watched like most of the first season and then life got in the way. But it's one of those ones I really liked it bringing back live action kind of shitty soap opera superhero stuff to the CW networks. And 2, it's just powerfully stupid. And I loved it. I just loved that aspect of it, where it's just like, it was never, ever, 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 ever trying to please the nerds. And that always made me appreciate it.
Did you read that like Kevin Smith run on Green Arrow that was very big with the fandom?
No, I haven't.
I'm going to say does not hold up very well, like a lot of Kevin Smith stuff.
Yep.
But it was very popular with that Scans Daily crowd.
Yeah, I remember reading a lot of it on Scans Daily, but then also already, because I was already becoming like a cinema person, already being like, you guys, like, I don't know if the things you like about this book are actually good things or if he's just feeding you.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? Yeah, like Onomatopoeia, right? That character. That character is nerd food, and it appeals to certain things that nerds like. This is non-derogatory nerd also. Just like there's a certain set of personality traits that I think does make one a nerd in how they interpret media. And that is appreciating cleverness, right? But cleverness is not a replacement for story.
Yes.
And onomatopoeia, I think, is like you can't ever use onomatopoeia again once onomatopoeia has been introduced.
To wit, onomatopoeia showed up in that Batman TV show that we reviewed on a bonus episode. And it was kind of the weakest part of the show.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Just kind of not good. like it's clever and that it's Joss Whedon-ass is what I mean to say.
Very
you know?
Whedon-ass, yes.
Or it's like the what's the line I wrote in my long Vice article about Joss Whedon? It's like he wants so desperately for you to know that he is smart that he will get in the way of his own storytelling to do it. Like he will just be like, by the way, I've read Sartre. Have you read Sartre? Well, I have. Here's a whole episode of Firefly that's all about me reading Nausea when I was 16. And it's like, I don't care about that. Tell me a good story. Spin me a yarn. Come on, just do it.
Are there any stories of Kevin Smith and Joss Whedon hanging out? I feel like that has to have happened.
I'm sure it happened, and I'm sure they hate each other. Like, they don't seem like they would get along.
No. The art on this backup is Andy Owens and Scott McDaniel, who were doing the Green Arrow book at the time. The right team to get, I suppose. A nice little 2-page summation, as usual, from writer Mark Waid about everything you need to know about Green Arrow. Cool guy, Oliver Queen. I love this dude. Leftist Batman. He's great.
Yeah, I mean, it's a concept I wish, frankly, I could write.
Yeah.
Right? Because I feel like the kind of leftist that Oliver McQueen is so specific, and I really want to get into it. Like, he is the most annoying guy in the DSA meeting.
Yes.
Right? That's the kind of guy he is. And now I think we have a better idea what kind of a character he is in the modern sense. When has been a very hard time, especially in mainstream pop culture, of trying to describe different kinds of leftists and leftism. But now that progressive politics have become more popular and like more legible, now that Hassan Piker is on CNN and shit, I feel like there has now come a time where there deserves to be an Oliver McQueen book written by someone who is deeply intimate with hanging out with really deeply annoying people like Oliver McQueen.
Or I got good news for you. That's exactly what Chris Condon's run is about
Hell
right
yes.
now.
Hell yes.
The latest arc from him has been all about these people from this community in Star City that had been like poisoned by corporations that built their community over like just like a bad water basin. So it's like basically a little Flint, Michigan inside of Star City. And a lot of the people in there started like taking vigilante action against the corporate leaders who put that in place. And Oliver's like, you know what? They're not wrong. Some of these guys kind of do need to go.
Yep. We love that. It's also just like there's always a guy in political organizing that's like, why don't you guys just fucking burn down the police station? Why don't you guys just fucking do that? And that's who Oliver is. Like he's like, loves direct action. I love that. But you love it more than you love actually getting results for things.
Yeah. There's this amazing scene in the latest issue of Ram V's New Gods where Hal Jordan is trying to like cooperate with the DEO to turn the New God refugees over to them. And Oliver's just like, man, after all these years, you still can't get enough of the taste of leather, can you?
He said ACAB. ACAB includes me. Right? Like he's been portrayed as a libertarian sometimes, but the purest understanding of this character is that he is the guy in DSA that's like, do you guys just want to go to the shooting range with me? I just think that we should all be armed, you know? Like that is who he is. And that is a type of guy that I think would be very interesting to have in the mix of the DC universe.
Yeah. He's the billionaire who keeps trying to give away his money, but keeps getting it back by accident.
It's his Faustian curse. Yeah. Perfect. Absolutely perfect.
Great. Yeah. I love Green Arrow. And that is our issue. What was your favorite scene in this comic with two scenes?
Sincerely, it's not booze, it's jingled.
Yeah.
Like that
crack.
reveal fucking, and it feels like it. I love the crack as the choice of the sound effect too. I wish that they'd honestly gone even cornier. I wish it was a pow or a bam or a boop.
Yeah.
You know, like it is a comic book moment. They gave him a comic book moment. They gave him a Silver Age comic book moment.
Oh, yes.
And I love that commitment to, you guys miss Ralph, here's Ralph.
Mm-hmm. One last ride with Ralph Dibny.
Yeah.
That's my favorite part too. But you know, that art, those 2 pages of art we got at the very beginning of Renee Montoya in the cave, I would have loved to see more of Derek Robertson's Montoya. Yeah.
Man, imagine him on a question book.
Oh, he would rock it.
He would absolutely rock it. He would. Yeah. I would love to see this depiction of subtle micro expressions behind the mask.
Yes, that's the good shit.
Yeah, right? That would be really, really amazing. Yeah. I think he would. And also looking at his pedigree, conspiracy and mystery and pulpiness is totally up his avenue. So that would be a very fun matchup of character and talent.
Yeah, someone literally asked me on Blue Sky a couple days ago who my picks for an absolute question book would be. And I was like, Derek Robertson on art. He'd kill it.
Yeah, absolutely. Wait, who's your writer pick for that, though, other than you?
Actually, Jadzia Axelrod, former guest of the show.
Hell yeah. No, that would be fucking sick. Yeah, sorry.
We have spoken a lot about the question, and I think she's got a book in here that would surprise everybody.
Hell yes. Hell yes. Okay. Before we get to the newsletter, the mailbag, I want to play that game a little bit more, but we got to do the blackboard first. Okay. So for me, the blackboard literally is, could anyone devise a magic system for the DC universe that makes sense?
Well,
right?
I'm really sorry you asked this because the answer for about 30 years was Neil Gaiman.
No!
I'm so sorry.
No!
The core text on magic in the DC universe was the Books of Magic series in 1990 that Neil wrote. And ever since then, people were like, why would you fuck with J.K. Rowling when Books of Magic is basically the same thing but better? And all I'll say is magic needs to be rewritten.
It does.
Somebody needs to get in that mix.
it's just unfortunate because Sandman is, of the books in the DC universe that feature magic heavily, the one that is most consistent in how it's portrayed and used. But where there have to be other characters that we can go to that can be an anchor for magic in the universe. To me, and it's like, unfortunate again because it's Sandman adjacent, but to me, really, it's Constantine. Yeah. And if we use Constantine as the anchor of all the magic stuff in this universe, we can build out magic in the DC universe more consistently.
There's this great tradition that writers of Hellblazer and Constantine, to a T, claim that they have actually met John Constantine in real life.
That's funny.
And this started with Alan Moore, who told this story about just going to a bar and meeting John Constantine there. And they had a few drinks together. And Constantine told Alan Moore this quote, "I'll tell you the ultimate secret of magic. Any cunt can do it."
I like that as the idea of like the basis of the DC universe, right? I like that. Why don't we go, again, problematic sex pest, but why don't we go fucking angel detective agency with it a little bit, right? And just be like, magic, the thing about it that people don't understand is actually incredibly mundane. We're all doing little acts of magic all the time. It's just some people really tap into these acts of magic and become more powerful in studying and practicing them. That could be the beginning of a magic system, because that's very consistent with Hellblazer, right? In the early Hellblazer, there's this funny scene that I love in that first arc where he's like, you know, you can summon demons from hell all the time, and they want you to say all these Latin words or whatever, but you can just call them a cunt. Right. And they'll, as long as you do the right rituals, they have to come. So don't worry too much about it.
There is one consistent rule in DC magic, and it's that intention makes it real. Belief makes it real. If you think it's real, it happens. And
and that's actually what Alan Moore says in the Moon and Serpent Bumper Book of Magic, is that belief is a powerful tool. Belief is the tool that makes these things real.
And that gets attributed a lot to what Gaiman was doing in Sandman. But where the fuck do you think Gaiman learned it from?
Everybody was ripping off Moore. Sorry.
Everybody was ripping off Alan Moore. I mean, with Zatanna, people ask me, why does Zatanna talk in backwards magic? And the canonical answer is that it's a focusing tool for her to just like really dial in on the intentionality of her words. She doesn't have to speak backwards to cast magic. It's about focus.
Yeah. So we can build this out. We just need a writer that, gives enough of a shit about this. And there's been attempts to formalize magic systems in the DC universe a lot. Like Justice League Dark was the big one that I can remember recently. Mm-hmm. That book, I think, was kind of uneven, but I do like that it was just sort of like magic is edgy. That's what differentiates it from other forms of other sources of power in the DC universe. Is like magic is edgy, magic is dark, magic is dangerous.
Magic comes at a price.
Magic comes at a price. I do like that also as sort of an thematic anchoring for how magic works here. But basically, as far as the DC universe is concerned right now, it's anything goes. Like magic is whatever the fuck you want, and it doesn't matter.
Here's what I want to put on the blackboard. When we were getting ready for this episode, I remembered our conversation we had with Mark Waid, where he had talked about having a different ending in mind for this issue and was kind of heartbroken by what ended up happening. So we didn't really get into the specifics because he specifically told us it was too hard for him to think about. But I was like, hey, do you have anything you could tell me now? And rather than spell it out for me, he just said, you know what? I have the script here. Read it. And I have in my inbox, which I have forwarded to Gita, the original script for this issue of 52. And it has a bit of a different ending. I guess I was expecting I was expecting a little more. Maybe when we were talking to him, it was about the Ralph issue that we're going to have a little bit after this. So I might circle back with him then about that. But there's only really one major difference here. And it's the whole element of tricking Neron to be trapped in the tower, which I don't think is present in the original story. Rather, Ralph just has Neron kill him.
Yeah, the major difference is this final image of the comic. What the meaning of I wish I was with Sue means, essentially. What that wish is, how it's enacted. So in the comic as written, I wish I was with Sue, means, the wish he makes means I wish I was dead. And he is in the tower forever. In the script as written, I wish I was Sue means when he's killed by Neuron, his body is transported to Sue's grave. And you see, cut to the cemetery from issue 2, still night. The kid groundskeeper, shade in hand, is weeding around a tombstone, reacts to a noise from off, then walks over, then runs over as he sees Ralph's corpse lying face up, slightly askew on Sue's grave. Her headstone all graffitied, legible and prominent. Panel 2, and as we close in on Ralph for a last tight shot, we see that he's smiling.
It's more succinct. There's a little bit less of the like tying the devil in knots to give him a big win. It does feel a little bit more like Ralph just taking the gun and shooting himself, but with extra steps.
I hadn't thought of it that way, but it does just feel like you're
Ralph,
killing
why didn't
yourself
you put
with
a bullet
extra
in your
steps.
head if this was just what you were going to do?
Yeah. No, I like that he gets a big hero moment at the end. Because I think I wish I was with Sue in his mind. Like when you think that when you're missing someone, especially someone who's lost, what you're saying is both I wish I was dead and also I wish I was the happy person that I was when I was with you. The thing about Ralph missing Sue is that he doesn't just miss her or want to be next to her bodily. He misses being a hero. He misses being a detective. He misses the dynamic they have. They solved crimes together. And I do think that giving him a moment of heroism in this issue makes that wish come true, like in a stronger way.
Absolutely. I understand. I understand the revision. Sometimes it's good to talk to your editor, but I also understand having your own conception of this scene. And I'm glad that we have this podcast to talk about that.
Sincerely, I do like this image that it ends on, right? Of him next to Sue's grave smiling. I like that idea.
It's stronger than the random appearance of B that we get at the end. I
think so. But I think probably it's like too many ideas. You want to give a moment of heroism, which means you don't get this moment where there's somber moment where you get to see him on the grave. And it's like a trade-off of there's only so many pages in this issue. How much can we fit in this issue, essentially? And it's like you get either your super clever I wish I was Sue moment, or you get the explanation of what happened here and what's happening to Neuron. I wish we could have seen this image. I wish we could have had both. But sometimes, like, in a strict format, you can't have everything that you want to have. And that sucks. I do think that later on, they make up for it in a specific image that I think you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. You do get to see them together one last time. And I think that sort of makes up for the lack of it here.
There's still more to go, folks. We still got 10 issues left.
I can't believe it. We're so close.
We're so close.
Okay, so before we do mailbag, there is there's one game I literally made up while we were recording.
Okay.
And it's just, let's pick a character and give them an absolute book. Writer and artist. Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Let's just, what character? We did the question already.
Yeah, we did the question.
Let's do one of my favorites. Let's do Catwoman.
Okay. Who's on absolute Catwoman?
Right? Right. And I need your help, especially with artists here. But, like, what's the premise of absolute Catwoman? What are the essential parts of Catwoman that you could take away, essentially?
Got to be a heist. It's got to be a heist thing. That's the core of Catwoman.
Yeah.
I think not being able to like nail down exactly what side she's on is important to her.
Yeah, absolutely. I think instead, so with Batman, he doesn't have the butler or the mansion or all the riches. So with Catwoman, it's like maybe it's that street level community is something she's no longer a part of.
Yeah.
The street level crime is something that she is no longer an inheritor of. She doesn't have a community of women essentially upholding her. She is truly on her own.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of where we see her in that Batman show we were talking about, where she's like this disgraced heiress.
Yeah. I think that is a good premise there.
Yeah.
And so I do agree that it would have to be then like a pretty gritty crime book that would be pretty fun to see. So from there, who do we want writing a story like that?
Man,
The
who do you got?
cyberpunk. I have the guy on Six Fingers, the one hand of the Six Fingers. That's not
Dan
Rob V.
Waters?
Dan Waters.
Dan Waters would be great. I love Dan Waters. He's killing it on Nightwing right now.
Yeah,
Dan
Waters is great.
The only reason I can't say Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips is because Ed Brubaker is literally the Catwoman guy. So
yeah, exactly. But I do think that Dan Waters has a taste for noir, which I definitely saw on The One Hand and the Five Fingers, which is the Six Fingers, which is so an incredible book. And he also has the idea of there's hopelessness. He likes to tap into feelings of hopelessness that I think on a story about street level crime and heists and petty criminals would be, I'm imagining this as sort of like Catwoman Andor, where she has to learn to believe in something.
Catwoman Andor.
That one got me too. I don't know what the fuck's wrong with me.
I'm so sorry. We were just talking about him. Green Arrow. How do you do absolute Green Arrow?
Oh, man. Okay, so he doesn't have the Robinson Crusoe arc, essentially. He's not a billionaire. So he's just a regular dude in the DSA that decides to take up arms on his own.
He's like a community alderman. Like a very, very low-level political figure.
Community alderman. Yeah, he's a city council member.
Yeah.
He's Chi Ose, my community council member. And I think that then you would want someone on that book that speaks to regularness. You know, if Garth wants to write a superhero again, this would be a great opportunity for him. I don't think he ever would, but this would be great. That would be a great book of just some guy who's like, I can fucking do this.
I think Absolute Green Arrow might just be like Zoran Mamdani.
Oh my God! Wait, no, that would be true. That he's just Zoran. If Zoran wore a mask at night.
Oh yeah.
I love Zoran.
Yeah, I'd want Derek Robertson to do that one too.
Yeah, Derek Robertson.
Get Derek Robertson on an Absolute book.
Ring, ring, get him on an Absolute book. Absolute question. I think this would also be like, what are other characters you'd really like to see in the Absolute line? The idea of the Absolute line is you take these iconic characters and you take away one of the major parts of their iconography, but they still end up being that hero. Right. Yeah. So Superman does not have Kansas. He does not have Ma and Pa Kent. He is a lot older and he's more Kryptonian instead of a human that discovers he's an alien. He is an alien trying to understand why human society is so evil, which I love. I was really fucking with that. Batman, no riches. Martian Manhunter, there's no Mars. No Mars. And also, like, there's no, like, superhero alter ego. There's, like, kind of id and ego fighting each other.
We were just talking about how there's never been a good Dr. Fate run. Maybe this is what he needs. Yeah,
maybe he needs someone just to radically reimagine the character, what the helmet is, what it does. I would love to see a Dr. Fate, absolute Dr. Fate, that is like every issue with someone else putting on the mask and paying a price for it.
Yeah, kind of like what Alan Moore was doing with Promethea.
Yes.
I think that would be so get J.H. Williams III to do absolute Dr. Fate.
Oh, that would be really fucking good. Yeah, I would love that. God. Oh, man.
Can you imagine the panels?
Oh, my God. I'm imagining them now.
How many dome-shaped panels are you going to see on double-page spreads?
That's hilarious. Man, those panels would be good, though. I genuinely think this is such a good way to get readers into a character they may not be into, because it's like, here's the stuff that people commonly complain about these characters. Superman's too much of a goody two-shoes. Batman's just a billionaire, you know? Take those things away. The characters are still really interesting.
Yeah. All right. I think it's time to go to our mailbag.
I think so. Enough of my game.
we got a couple questions here. This first one is from Mickey, who says, "Hello, lovely people. Love your podcast so much, and I truly hope you will cover another cool comic book I've never heard of once this saga is over. Maybe. Keep your subscriptions coming to Aftermath. We'll see what happens. I have a question linked to Marvel's relatively recent relaunch of Doctor Doom. I've never been too much into the man, but it only now clicked to me how fascinated I am by his attempt to mix tech and magic, especially in the comic world where those two things are firmly kept separated. Are there any DC characters who do the same? And if so, can you recommend any series or runs on the theme? Many thanks, Mickey." As we just said, there's not a lot of magic is pretty nebulous in the DC universe.
Yeah. What I would say to this is it might not fit exactly what you mean, but you should read at least the first arc of Hellblazer.
Yes.
Because it's not so much tech and magic, it's more like, here's a normal person with mundane problems like rent and like his friends detoxing from drug addiction and like London, just London generally. And he is also deeply embroiled in magical society. It's a story of a regular, degular guy that interfaces with the world in a normal way. It just happens to be very magical.
I'm going to once again recommend John Rogers and Keith Giffen's Blue Beetle series.
That is also an excellent recommendation.
What's the story with the scarab? Is it magic? Is it alien? It's kind of both. And we see him explore that with his relationship with Tracy 13 and with Peacemaker. And it goes in a lot of really cool directions. And it's still one of my all-time favorite DC superhero comic runs.
Yeah, there's stuff out there for you. And I totally understand this particular attraction to Doctor Doom. I remember the first time I really got into Doctor Doom was Ultimate Fantastic Four, where they really up the mystical occultism aspect of it. I think that one is also written by a sex pest, Warren Ellis. But
my problem is too many adjectives. Are they ultimate or are they fantastic?
An editor's got to get in there. Yeah. Pick one. That's always one of my big fucking comments. It's something Ultimate Tim 4. Always said to me was like, you pick one adjective. And I'm like, fuck you. But you're correct.
I mean, if you're talking about the Fantastic Four, you either go with one adjective or you go with 4 adjectives. You got to go all the way in.
Ultimate, amazing,
astounding.
Absolute
Fantastic Four.
Exactly. God. I pre-read this question, so I'm going to try to explain my answer very quickly. Can I read this one, actually?
Go for it,
I haven't read a mailbag before.
I give you the floor.
Hi, Gita and Alex. Love you and your show so much. Thank you. It truly brings a burst of joy into my life every time I listen to one of your episodes. I think I've heard it was me, I've said this, you saying multiple times or something along the lines of, Marvel's X-Men are the most DC comic they produce. Can you expand on that? And are there any specific stories you think of when you say that? Sending you both mucho more, Angel. Thank you. Thank you so much. Angel. What I mean by that when I say that is that it is the most self-consciously self-referential book that is, or line of books that Marvel produces frequently. Like they are constantly trying to reference specifically Claremont's run that was incredibly successful and had an extremely long-running continuous plot line that still holds up. And when people take radical swings with the mythology of the X-Men, it is because they are trying to reference this specific era. DC stands out to me because it's like a lasagna a lot of times. It's stuff compressed and stacked up on top of each other where all the flavors marry in the cooking of it. And that's how I feel about X-Men, where there's these particular standout runs where everyone wants to say everything about the X-Men every time they get their hands on a flagship X-Men title.
I haven't read a lot of X-Men. I know that when back in the 90s, I knew it was the biggest thing because we had a local laser tag arena that was Jim Lee's X-Men themed. And they gave away like a free X-Men comic book so you would check it out. And I read, it's like, why are there so many lines?
Yeah, I mean, also the thing about X-Men is that it's like its own separate universe within the Marvel universe, and it deals with a lot more fictional cities and fictional locations and fictional pieces of politics than the rest of the Marvel books do. And I like that too, because sometimes when you get to the Marvel books and like Avengers is happening literally in New York, I'm just like, no, it's not. that wouldn't happen. Like,
the world outside your window. I poke my head. Oh, where are they?
Yeah. That's just more like a... Politics doesn't really happen in, like, Civil War as an event is a good example of this. If like there was like superhero registering, I don't think it would go down like that, right? I don't think the politics of that world would enact that way because it's very silly. It's very comic booky. Because X-Men has to do with like a fictional marginalized race specifically, the politics can be sillier, but also feel like they are more hard-hitting and more real.
Yeah. I think some good points there.
Thank you.
What comes to mind for me is the contrast between the tones of X-Men and DC, which really comes to bear in Kurt Busiek and George Perez's JLA Avengers, maybe my all-time favorite crossover comic, where a lot of the X-Men come to the DC universe, and the biggest shock to them is that all of these superheroes are like praised in the media and held up as like these icons. They're like, people love metahumans here. What the hell? They treat them like gods, and we're just like literal garbage on our planet, and we do the same thing.
Yeah, it's really funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. If there was a Superman in the Marvel universe, the entire tenor of the universe would be different, right? Like that's essentially what the huge difference is here, is that there was a Superman who was like, I'm the nicest man in the world and I love all of you guys.
Right. Like even when Marvel tried to do their own Superman with the Sentry, it had to be under the context of what if Superman was evil? The everybody's favorite story trope.
What if Superman was an evil little boy?
What if Superman was evil?
Dog, because no one's ever done that before, right? God. No one's ever thought about what would happen if Superman was evil. But what if he was evil?
What if instead of good, he was bad?
What? It's so funny because Superman himself is a subversion of that idea that absolute power corrupts absolutely. You don't need to subvert it again. That's just normal style.
The first draft of Superman was evil, and they were like, this sucks. In 1933.
Really That's absolutely true. That's so true. God. Yeah. And I listen, I like Marvel, but X-Men is also one of the few stories that gets to end optimistically because the idea is that the arc of history bends towards justice, right? It is a story of oppression, and that stories are not satisfying unless the oppressed class gets something in the end. Yeah. So, like, it gets to have hope in a way that other Marvel stories don't tend to because they are emphasizing that idea of the world outside your window, which is messier and more gray.
Right.
Spider-Man comes close too, but Spider-Man, it's like also its own thing.
Spider-Man's also famously never allowed to be happy.
Yeah, exactly. He will always have his happiness ripped away from him. It's a canon event.
Speaking of which, they just announced like new Marvel DC crossovers. Batman's gonna meet Deadpool.
I'm so fucking psyched.
Grant Morrison's coming back for it. Ya boy.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
You know, okay, so here's my beef with Deadpool.
Yeah.
You've been to a comic book convention, Alex, obviously many times.
Mm-hmm.
The Deadpool guys.
Yeah, the Deadpool guys.
That's my problem with Deadpool, is that the Deadpool guys have ruined it for me. There's always a guy invading your personal space at a comic book convention dressed like Deadpool.
It would be pretty satisfying to see Batman deck him, though.
Oh my God, yes, I do want that so bad. I do want that so bad. Do you think that Marvel and DC match up those two characters because they are among the most popular and they're just thinking about like what is going to sell books?
I mean, definitely. They're doing two. One is written by Zeb Wells and one is written by Grant Morrison. Deadpool Batman and Batman Deadpool. There are going to be other crossovers next year that are yet to be announced. And I don't know, I guess in one of them, Deadpool will get to Bugs Bunny Batman, and in the other one, Batman will get to one-up Deadpool.
I mean, it is very satisfying to watch Batman have to deal with levity.
Yeah. I mean, what I wanted to see would have been Harley Quinn Deadpool. I mean...
Yeah, and I think that would have sold better, too.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, I think that's a better matchup of characters, and I think that would fly off the shelves. Like, just absolutely gone. Put Amanda Conner art on that, and it's done.
But if you want to put a 10x multiplier on any book, you just put Batman's name in the title. So
yeah, absolutely.
There you have it. Okay. I don't know if I'm ready for that. Are you ready?
52 Pickup is an Aftermath production created by Gita Jackson and Alex Jaffe and edited by Esper Quim with original music by John Aaron. Hosting for 52 Pickup is provided by Insert Credit. The views and opinions expressed on this show are solely those of the show's personalities and do not reflect those of DC Entertainment or Warner Brothers. Please rate and review our show wherever you can and send your questions and comments to 52mailbag@gmail.com. Never stop reading comics.